Well, I want to wish everybody a good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are on this Monday. Almost spring is around the corner. I just am excited. I want to share with you that on Saturday we had Salvador Moreno Lopez from Mexico facilitate a program on the music of our voice, and he gave one example. He played some music and it was very lively, and people were tapping their feet and enjoying it in one way. And then he played another song, and it was very mournful and very soulful. And then people shared how they felt from that music. It turns out it was the same words,
Mm.
and it just showed about in terms of communication how the tone of our voice adds meaning, and it's not just the words. And sometimes people can say, I woke up, oh, I'm feeling great, and somebody can really feel what's beneath those words because that's really not how that person is really feeling. So for me, that was like a real eye opener, and thinking about how I would like to do more work around that. So I'm just sort of planting a seed because I invited Salvador to come here and to do a program for us one time. It's a little bit early for him, so we'll keep working on it. And then just a couple quick things with at coronaplaza.life, because I know several of you have joined us on Saturday and some other programs that tomorrow Pat Amidian is doing a program on how we do it. And it's about how we do community wellness and psychosocial support and what works in communities and groups. So in case you are interested, that's at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I don't know if you know Dale Lance. On Saturday, he's doing a program on combining poetry and focusing to nurture our hunger for human connection. And that's on 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And then the last thing, I know many of you have been taking Robert Bruger's program on mindfulness. And he, again, is offering another series on Tuesdays at 8 in the morning and Thursdays at 2. So if you're interested, you can write to me privately. So again, I just want to wish you all a good day, and Lynn will hold the space for us now.
Thank you, Melissa. And I will just announce that we've been getting some lovely notes from you. And please write to us and let us know what this program has meant to you and what you would suggest for the next year. I'm hearing a little echo. Do you
I am too. I don't know if people should try to mute themselves if you're not already muted, and let's see if that helps, or we'll have to figure something else out.
I think it's in my no, now it seems okay. Okay. So you're invited to write us an email with suggestions for our year 2. And those of you who are interested in being part of shaping where our program is going, our year 2, we'll be having a meeting next Monday at 10 o'clock. So we'll have a 15-minute break after our Help for Helpers. And then we'll get together at 10 and give some ideas to each other about what we would like to see for our year 2, which will start in May. Also, if you have any suggestions, speakers that you would like to have participate in this program, write to us about it. So let's take a breath. Topic this morning is a very juicy one for me, one that I really wanted to explore for myself and with you, focusers. The topic of focusing as a spiritual practice, or I had 2 names for it. I don't know which one you received. The other one was the spiritual edge of focusing. We talked about the intimate edge of focusing, the edge of awareness, and then the spiritual edge. Often people will ask me, is focusing spiritual? Many people who are very drawn to spirituality are drawn to focusing. And yet, spirituality is never spoken about by Jean, and not we won't find spiritual language in focusing. And first, I want to say that for me, focusing is deeply spiritual. It is a spiritual practice. And for me, every time I focus, it's going to that large space that I think of as spiritual. One of the problems with talking about this is the word spiritual. And that word means so many things to so many different people. And I'm going to ask you in a few minutes what it means to you. To me, what it means is that sense of the largeness of life and being held by life and holding life, being open to life, and life moving in us and through us, and life wanting more life, as Jean would put it. This, what psychoanalysts call the developmental thrust, this forward moving nature of all life. And to me, focusing is a way to go there, to that edge of this large, what we would call the big system. Jean, when he was asked why he doesn't talk about spirituality, would say that since the language means so many different things to so many different people and has been ruined for many people, that if he talked about focusing in spiritual terms, he would lose half of the people, and for no good reason, because you don't need that language, he said. He would say that he was very, what can I say, very embedded in spirituality, very, it was very important to him, very alive for him. But he saw himself, and he would say this, as a consumer, not as a salesman of it. So I always love that he needed spiritual perspectives and tools and inspiration, like all of the other people who needed. But he didn't want to see himself as someone who was providing it. He wanted to see himself as with everybody, looking for it, and focusing certainly is a way of looking for it. When I would visit Jean close to the end of his life, and he was living upstate, I would come in and he would have his chair. It was difficult for him to walk at that point, but he would have his straight back chair right up against a door leading out, a glass door, and I would say hello, and he would say, "Oh, I'm just communing with it," and he would go, the outside, the trees, the birds, that was life to him, and he wanted to always to be in tune with it and to be inspired by it. Ruth and I did an interview with Jean about his Jewishness, which you can find on YouTube, and he talked about having a Hebrew prayer book by his bed, and that being important to him. So focusing is that edge of being right on the brink of our awareness, of our consciousness, of what we don't know or we know in a different way. And that to me is very much what spirituality is. It's being right on that edge of the big mystery that we're part of, that's in us and through us, and that we just can touch it. And focusing can help us to touch it. But before we go any further, I want to ask you what the word spirituality means to you. So just take a minute, because it means so many different things. And as TAE shows us, we can say, what do you want this word to mean? It could mean all kinds of things, but what would you like it to mean? What should it mean for you? And then just take some breaths and maybe settle into your body and turn that word over in your heart, mind, and body. When something comes to you, a phrase or an image, put it in the chat for us so we can share it with you. We can have a sense of what this spiritual edge is for this community. Take your time. Okay, I think some of you are still in a process there, and perhaps you can continue with it. But maybe we'll have Melinda read some of the things that have been put in the chat so far.
Okay. Spiritual. Let me get to the top. Recognition, movement, aliveness, beyond what is apparent, touching, feeling, being part of the wholeness, being touched by some other realm, connection to the vastness of the universe inwardly and outwardly, the soul aspect in relation to the bigger whole of life and aliveness, connection to a universal energy, a deep sense of something much larger than myself or this world, and yet connected to it, to us all. Something pure, the center of my being, my natural soul, untarnished by ideas, stories from the outside. A lens or perspective that is looser but includes the psychological, somatic, societal, cultural, political, biological. Moving towards that edge of the bigger mystery that we are inextricably part of. So.
Wow. We'll send you those. And please continue if you haven't written yours in the chat. Please do that as we go along. Something more may come to you, and then we'll have these beautiful descriptions of what we want spirituality to mean that we can share with each other. Let's just take in what's been said so far. I'm just going to share with you a few of my thoughts about what is spiritual about focusing, or how focusing brings us there. And I thought I would share the notes with you and share my screen. But then there's something very cold about seeing a page of words rather than seeing each other. And so I'm not going to do that. When we have our breakout rooms, I'll put it on the screen, and then you can, refer to it, and we'll put it in the chat later. Does that seem right to you? Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Seems fine to me.
Good. If nobody objects, then we'll do it that way. So these are my thoughts about what's spiritual about focusing. First of all, focusing is completely dependent upon and also generates an attitude of openness and receptivity, and a kind of waiting for something to happen. It's a kind of expectant leaning into, and what Donald Stern calls a courting surprise. It's this attitude of what will come of this, and that attitude to me is the attitude that goes right into that larger realm. It's an attitude almost of reverence. I don't know. How many of you think that the word reverence you would use there with that focusing attitude? Does it fit for you? That's one of those words that it could mean something. For me, it means this treasuring and respect of the whole great big thing that we're part of, and the attitude of being open to it. Gene calls that whole big thing, he calls it the big system, which I love, and he calls it the more. And when we talk about the implicit, it's that more of ourselves, the more of life, what can't be put into words, but only the words bring it to us in our bodies. And we're courting that more in focusing and open to it. The second thought is that we experience in focusing a connection to this more. We're making a connection. We're hearing from it. And that's something very unique in a way about focusing in terms of psychotherapy approaches. This idea that what's not fully conscious, that we can feel into it and that it will speak to us. Jean talked about it talks back, and that it is this more than we can know actually speaks to us. We are having a dialogue in focusing with the next step, or with the bigger life, or with the more complexification than we can hold, or the surprising. Isn't that amazing? That focusing can help us to have a dialogue with this larger life that's in us. Quite amazing. We experience in this speaking, a sense of this life being in us and beyond us and transcending us and between us. That whole sense of how it's so much vaster, and yet it's in us and we can find it in us. The third thought is that we feel held and guided by this more, this bigger life. We feel that as we listen, as we speak to it, that it is calling us forth. It is welcoming us. Life is cultivating us in those micro moments of tuning in. The feeling guided is an amazing kind of feeling, that we can wait and hear what it has to say, and that it is wanting us to grow. There was a student in one of my focusing oriented therapy classes for whom English wasn't her first language, and she spoke very poetically in her use of English. And she said, with this big grin on her face, for me, she said, focusing is letting the grow have you. And I always loved that, letting the grow have you, the big grow, you know, and letting it have you. Yes. Lastly, focusing is an act of faith. When we go to the edge of our awareness, we have a faith that it isn't random, it isn't arbitrary, that there is something that we don't have yet that we can surrender to. Surrender is another word that's an evocative word. Jean said, it has to come. We don't know the next words that will come out of our mouths. And when you're speaking like I am right now, that can be a little anxiety provoking. I don't know what I'm going to say to you next. And I hope that it's saying something that's here in my heart. And I hope that I'm in tune with it. But I can't control it. Even if I have all my notes, I could read them, but then it would be lifeless. So that surrender is a way of saying, it has to come. I don't know. And yet I can know, I can get a glimpse, I can hear. And that takes faith and trust. It's a risk. Every time we focus, every little step of focusing is a risk. And it's the kind of faith that isn't a blind faith. It's the kind of faith that is borne out over and over and over again, that we're experimenting with always, that we're seeing, will it come this time? If I have this problem, if I'm up against this, or I have this feeling, or I'm in this kind of a state, can focusing help me? Is there anything there? And we take that little risk or big risk to pause, to quiet, to listen. And then when something comes, a new word, a sense of opening, a shift, it's like, wow. And there's this life that we can't deny in this, in our bodies. Oh, I never thought of it that way. Or, oh, that's interesting. Or, that's exactly how it feels, kind of thing. And that faith that we had is borne out over and over again in this dialogue. Sort of like our relationship with the universe is like any relationship where the intimate edge of experience needs to be risk-taking and furthered each time we engage with it. And so focusing is a way of engaging with that larger life energy that's in us. So let's just hear, as you're taking that in, anything from you about what we've said so far. I was looking forward to talking with you about this morning because I thought they're going to say things that I never thought of, and I'm going to be so enriched by it. Anything that's there for you is welcome. Anything about the word spiritual or how focusing is or isn't spiritual, anything about your experience of that larger space.
Hi, I'm Steph.
Hi, Steph.
Betty. I've been meditating since I was a kid, and I really love connecting with the bigger self. But and I'm fairly new to focusing, but what I have enjoyed about experimenting with focusing is that it's a way to harness that energy to support myself. And so it's been a very different kind of muscle, but very supportive and helpful.
Steph, I love that expression, harnessing that energy. And let's put that in the chat.
Lynn, one of the things that I found so powerful about focusing is when you focus with another, there's total connection. I mean, I always can feel that, which just blossoms that idea of, wholeness or universality, and certainly compassion. Yeah.
Yes. And that's such an immediate experience of the big system, right? That we're all belonging together in it. We can feel that connectedness. And focusing brings us right there to that connected place where we're all belonging together, and we all are one interaction. I mean, that's another part of the mystery of spirituality and the mystery of focusing, that we are this interaction, not the separate little entities.
I appreciated what you said, Lynn, about risk. It gave me a compassion for myself when I felt too much of a something to let go into that bigger thing from which I don't know.
Mm.
Like I would a lot of times like try to like figure it out or even figure out the next move of focusing instead of letting myself be guided from that surrendering place.
Yes, yes, yes. I really resonate with that, Jonathan. I'm like that too. I'd rather figure it out with my mind because somehow I feel like I have more control than if I'm pause and I'm quiet and I'm waiting for it to speak. Yes, absolutely.
I um, let's see.
Zhisheng?
Yes. Technical problem. Jonathan is next to me. We're both using the device. So. Let's see. I'm feeling sad. This is such an important topic for me, and I'm sitting here with family members around doing things, and Jonathan typing and stuff. I was just like, this bigger system is taking me to like too much stimulus, too much directions. And this part of me really want to fully be here. And this is the thing I like. I sometimes don't know. It's like how I can hold all of those, or like in groups. I like love group and hate group. It's like too much going on. And sometimes I'm thinking maybe in a cave, I can feel connected to the bigger system more than being in this world. And yeah, and sometimes it's much easier. I feel it kind of came to me when you were describing Jinx sitting there and with a bird, and like, oh, maybe that's why I have this kinship with him. But now knowing that part of him, that's my life. I like literally right before I came here, I was outside connecting with trees and birds. That bring me life. And then when I came in with people, I was like, I felt like spread thing. And I just like, I don't know, felt like I dreamed my life.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. What you're saying, Zhisheng, that touches me is that we want the more, but the big system is so big, we can be overwhelmed. It can feel scary and too much. There's a kind of too muchness. And then we have to find our way to take just what the focusing space can provide us with in that moment. That and I think that that's another way that focusing is a spiritual practice, that it can bring us into that moment, that embodied sense of just this now, and the awareness of the whole big thing.
I'm also thinking of the awareness of interconnectedness. And I think in the focusing process, that naming and resonating and deep listening creates a sense of interconnectedness. And that's, and then I think we can also do that with our surrounding, with everything we hear, we see. And I think that's pointing to a lot of what you named as spiritual.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that, Robert, that the naming and the resonating is like taking the whole huge, overwhelming thing and bringing it into this name. And the name holds all of that. The resonance holds all of that for us.
Something else just occurred to me that hadn't occurred before until your dialogue with Olivia, is that there's this aspect that focusing shares with my experience of spirituality that's related not just to like phenomenology and theology, but ethics, right? And what some traditions will call essential qualities. So like the compassion, right? And the allowing. And so you were modeling that and you're just pointing to that, I think, in your dialogue with Olivia. And it's what, and that's integral to the focusing sensibility, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
The side of our personal preferences in order to serve, right? That which is larger than us in the interaction.
Yeah.
Without sensibility, spirituality is elusive, right? It's just like, you know, thumb sucking in a way, as opposed to actually, right, being with.
Mm. And that I think what you're saying there is that the compassion, the sense of wanting to be of service is inherent in focusing. It isn't something that we should do or that we should be, but it comes naturally and organically in the process. Am I getting you right there?
Yeah, yes, for sure. And that in terms of being able to access, in my experience, right, spirituality in the most profound sense, right? Agenda. We need to let go of the agendas because it's way bigger than we can imagine.
Right. We have to let go of the agendas. It's way bigger than all of that. Yes.
Thank you.
This is Brigitte Bauingen. For me, focusing is to go beyond space and time. So it will be, it's like non-dualism that we have in Buddhism. And so although I use my body to have access, non-duality, I am not this body and I am this body.
Mm.
And so it's the connection between the historical dimension and the ultimate dimension. And what focusing has allowed me is to be really in touch with the ultimate dimension just now, and also touching what made this body, this person, so the ancestors, the environment. So it's very ecological. It's so I don't get lost because I have this system in a way. So it's not scary because I am meeting the one that I don't know who is me. It's just
Gigi, that you said that so so touchingly and beautifully. You're meeting the one that you don't know, that's you. And it's beyond time and space, beyond the dualities of good and bad and all of those dualities. Yes. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, in a simple way, I saw it as opening to an unexpected place, because it's something new that it just sort of comes to me like I'm sitting out here and in Aruba, and it's just a beautiful bird as we were talking. this beautiful orange colored bird came to me, and I have a connection with birds in a spiritual way. And I was thinking that the unexpectedness of life and the unexpectedness that comes up when I'm focusing, when I'm really with it, going to a new place, it just sort of blooms. So just wanted to share that.
Yes, I love how you brought that all into this being with the unexpected as the spiritual act, in a sense, as the act of faith. Yes.
Sometimes I'm Dorothy. Sometimes what comes up for me, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Is an aching longing. And it was triggered when the person, I don't know her name, when she said, I hate the group and I love the group, and part about going outside and connecting with nature. I connected so much with what she was saying, and it, like, I can't find her on the screen. There's this aching longing to connect, which feels like a spiritual, like existential ache of longing. And then there's this other side when I'm filled with the loving, because of the resonance and the in syncness that's so profound. I'm filled with a loving. So it's sort of that duality in spirituality that hits me right now.
Yes, thank you, Dora. That aching to connect and the longing and aching is part of that calling, in a sense, like life is calling us to something. And I'm, this is an aside, but I'm remembering that you emailed us and said you would connect with people from the group, and anyone who is willing to be connected with, if you could put your email in the chat at the end, we'll remember to ask you again. And that will be an invitation if somebody wants to connect with you through via email and say, oh, I love what you said, or I'd like to have more of a conversation about this, or I'd love to get together and focus with you as a result of the breakout groups. We can connect with each other that way. So I think we have time for one more comment. And then I'm going to play a little video for you. I hope Christine has it, just to settle us into contemplative space for our breakout rooms. And I'll tell you more about what we'll do there, but let's have one more comment.
I'd like to say a couple of words. My approach to focusing is through biospiritual focusing. So for me, when I think about all of this, I look at focusing as a life-giving habit of noticing and nurturing what's deepest within me. It's not a tool or a method for analysis or therapy. It's a way of being in the now. And in addition, it provides me a pathway to my own felt senses that connect me to the wisdom that's beyond me and to the universe within which I live, move, and have my being. And it's all done in a context, I think, of caring presence and compassion that enables me to be with that which is most scary within me. That concept of being held that you talked about before, it enables me to be with the demons within me and to hold them with compassion and non-judgmental, which is huge, allows me to move forward. It also, from a more personal perspective, it gives me a balance between what I would call my spirit, my head spirituality, all the theology and the beliefs, all that stuff. But it also gives me a physical experience of what I would call grace, the power to move forward and to be one. And then finally, for me, it's a spiritual practice by asking myself on a regular basis, what wants my loving awareness right now? That changes everything. And then one last thing, it also leads me to a life of compassionate caring, because this is not just something that I do for myself and it stops there. It leads me to be more compassionate with others, to hold them with a caring presence.
Thank you so much, Joe. You said so much there, and I'm so happy this is being recorded because I want to go back and listen to all the things that everybody, things that
so much to say.
Yes. I want to underline that idea of focusing as a practice. That there's something about the ritual of going to the deepest part of oneself, or the truest in the moment, or the what's there right now, and that you called a practice or a habit. And there's something about that, a practice, that that grows us over time, that you're flagging up for us. Okay, in your in a couple of moments of silence here, I'm going to play a little video for you of scenes of the frozen world, and the idea that even though it doesn't look like nature is happening, all kinds of new growth is happening under the surface. And that's like the way we are, that in moments when we feel like we're frozen or crusted over, that there's all kinds of life coming up through that ice and snow and water melting, and as well as, of course, there's all kinds of birds and all kinds of animals and all kinds of other life there too. So I'm just going to provide these images for us to feel into what that spiritual edge of the new life that focusing points to and is and helps us find what that is for us right now. And then we'll share in the breakout rooms. If you need to go before the breakout rooms, make sure that you do right after this little video, and then we'll come back at 9:30 and share with each other. Okay, are we all set? Christine, are you set to give us the video? If you have any images, that's from mostly around my house in the country. If you have any images that bring the sense of the spiritual, please send them to us and we'll put them in our little attunement videos, meditative videos. One of them was from Clara there, and the rest are from near my house. So I will see you all at 9:30 and have a good breakout room. Welcome back, everybody. People look very happy. I want to say that I so appreciated what everybody said in the earlier part of the meeting, and I'm hoping that it will be okay with everybody to have your comments on YouTube. If for any reason it isn't okay with anybody to have your comment, just let us know. Because it will be so important to share with the rest of the focusing crowd these insights about spirituality and focusing. So I hear a little echo. Melinda, do you hear an echo? Am I okay there or am I echoing?
No, there's an echo. I'm sorry, I was muted. So if you aren't muted, if we could ask everybody to mute themselves, and that might help us hear Lynn better.
Well, we don't want to hear Lynn right now. We want to hear everybody.
Okay, but maybe we could do it one at a time. People could unmute themselves.
Yes. So whatever is there for you is welcome. And of course, we always encourage the people who are quieter, the people who are new. We have a few new people today. Anybody is welcome. What was your breakout room like for you? What would you like to share?
I would like to share.
Good.
I very much recognize myself in Olivia's. I love group, I hate groups. And I always have difficulties of being overwhelmed of the impressions of the whole group and have difficulties to have something to say. But today it was different in the breakout rooms. And it was really a lovely time with Rhonda and Robert. And it was a stillness. And it was like a sparkling shyness in me. I just loved to be with them. And there was something in me who felt like an animal, almost like, do I dare just to be with them without saying anything? Am I allowed just to be here? And it was this such a small movement of shyness, but in it was like a sparkling something.
I love that.
I want to share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have to say I resonated with Olastina. You know, I find that we use the word pause and pausing so often, but I haven't heard the word still or stillness. And in terms of, it seems so appropriate in terms of with talking about spirituality. There's a certain, and I used the word all before too, AWE, that to me goes with the stillness. And anyways, it just inside of me, there's this calmness and the settling in. which creates the ingredients for the spirituality that we're trying to talk about.
Awe and stillness.
Hello, for me, it was like being in a pub on St. Patrick's Day in Ireland.
That's quite surprising, William. In what way?
Well, I think it was mostly Jim.
Well, I can imagine Jim being like being in a pub on St. Patrick's Day.
Jim.
What I get from that is a kind of togetherness and excitement and breaking out kind of feeling.
Yeah, for me, it was like it's the mutability of the spirit world. It keeps changing second by second. You say something and immediately you can see the opposite, and then there's a coming together, and it's really quite a flow. It's a fast flow if you're into it. Yeah, and you don't have to be tipsy. Although it helps.
Ability. Oh, yeah. Focusing is so like that.
But Stina, I understand why you felt that stillness and that because of the two people you were with. I happen to know them, Rondi and Robert, and what else could you expect? They're wonderful, of being deep and with themselves.
And what was your experience like?
Oh, mine was interesting in that I was hearing this kind of conflict between, and I didn't quite understand it, being with focusing and being here and yet sometimes not being in the larger self. So we were really working with that, and it was taking more conversation, right, of what all that means. And it sounded like it was really coming from experience, which I wasn't totally connected to the experience because I didn't understand what was, but it was what I want to say, in total curiosity of what all that experience of the other person was or is, you know, of how we are in focusing and how we are in our spiritual life. Yeah.
You were very, very curious about that experience of being torn between being in the bigger self and being in the smaller self.
Well, that's how I'm saying it, but I'm not sure that's how the other person would say it. I wish she would. Maybe she will talk. I don't know. I thought it was very, just very provocative for me. I was like, oh, when do I miss that, and how? And I don't want to miss that. Right? That I want it to be one and open from my place, yeah, of being.
Yes. Anybody else?
Well, Lynn, this is Francesca. Hi, it's nice to see you. Thanks for doing this. Hi, I'll just follow up because I was the person who was talking that may have left, you know, the provocative comment. And because I know you so well, I'll just say what came for me is that, I mean, you know that I'm certified as a focusing oriented therapist, and I'm also certified as an Indigenous focusing oriented therapist. And I had multiple negative experiences with the focusing community last year around issues of racial and systemic oppression and trauma, not so much for me personally, but for me to recognize how the community was not, seemingly in my view and my experience, naming that the programming and the conditioning that exists in the larger structured way and that is not named as sort of like a thing that exists in the world, so that a lot of folks, I feel, think that it's all an individual piece to be done around this sense of feeling connected. And so focusing, of course, brings us into a very deep place with our own felt sense, with our interactive felt sense, with our sense of being with birds and trees. I just moved into a new house out here on Long Island by the beach, and it's gorgeous, and it makes me so connected to the larger, all my relations and all that is life and all of that. And what I feel happens often in focusing communities and in other spiritual communities and in other trauma communities and psychotherapy communities is that the focus on this individual piece is a missing factor. If you use the indigenous focusing lens of all my relations, as Shirley Turcott, it is a both and, or an and, as she says. And we never sort of point to the naming of, well, you've been conditioned for many, many years. And so the felt sense of collapse and the felt sense of tightness and the felt sense of non-connection that often is our experience can be mitigated by just that beingness, just being in the moment with a therapist in the room, with a community or a sangha of people who you feel safe with and all of that. And that really allows us to feel this expansiveness and that like we have a place on the planet, like we're here together, we're in this. And also, I feel as though when we're not naming that there's a reason why we feel that way, that it always is our natural state. How could it not be? The whales in the ocean, have baleen, they have plankton, we breathe oxygen, but that we don't realize that often the reason why we feel the way we feel, in my experience, is that no one said to us, well, it's oxygen and carbon monoxide. Well, there's something in the air that you may not be aware of. And that if you have and can bring awareness to this, you can do all of the same things from an even bigger perspective of noticing that there's a reason why there's perhaps this place of feeling of division, which is, Winston was saying in our small group, we respect diversity, we allow other people to have their opinions and beliefs. 100%. I don't care if people believe anything different. I don't care who you support politically. I don't care any of that. I would just like to have the focusing community offer often, like in indigenous focusing, we ask the question, is that all yours? That's a very open question.
Say that again, is that
all yours? Is that all yours?
That last word I'm not getting.
Is that, whatever the it is, whatever the that is, all yours? Does it all belong to you?
Yes. Let me see if I have you now, Francesca. That the tornness is the affirmation of that connected place that focusing can bring us to, and that sense of being part of the bigness, the belonging in the universe. That's so important. And what you want more of, that you feel protest is about is that you want the world to name what we may not be obvious to us of social and political and historic elements.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't even have to be all of that. All I'm saying is that that naming that it's not just our small experience, you know, and that it's not just unique to us. I mean, the spiritual bypassing piece, I feel, is just so prevalent, and everyone loves coming together and feeling connected. I love it.
Okay, Francesca, I want people to be able to take what you're saying. I think we got to that place where we could take.
I'm getting a lot of messages here from people that say they resonate with what I'm saying. So if anybody wants to message me or whatever, you can just Google me and you can email me if that resonates with you.
Great. But I want to say back that last part so we can all take it in about what you're holding is the recognition that that the alienation, the non-connectedness, isn't always all our personal story. That there's to just name that we are fish swimming in a sea, and that there are other dimensions that you want to be in our awareness, so that the connectedness doesn't feel like a bypassing something.
And the last thing I'll say is, because the woman who wrote the 1619 Project said this, that we're all swimming as fish, and some are swimming upstream and some are swimming downstream. And to have no awareness of that is the crux of it.
I'm going to meditate on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Francesca is also reminding us that there have been requests to be able to contact people. So if you're willing to be emailed, please put your email address in the chat, and we'll keep that chat open. But we will be saying goodbye. But you could still put your email address in the chat, and we will see you next week. And Melinda, we have Marie next
Marie
week.
de Fremaville, correct.
Yeah, we're going to do the background healing next week.
I want to say thank you to Francesca to talk about what she had said, because I could never have redone that. So thank you, Francesca.
Thank you I thought that you were being, what you said led into what Francesca shared. So thank you for that. Okay, people, we'll see you next week. Very, very nice.